Welcome back to the Kimchi Rednecks
kitchen.
So, why are we in the kitchen today?
Because we're cooking.
Well, that would make sense.
Man, it's usually why I go in the kitchen. So, today we are making a dish that Koreans really like to eat when it is hot outside. Because as we have learned from our samgyeopsal video, when it is hot outside, the Koreans like to eat hot food because it regulates the body temperature, or they fight the heat with the heat.
Something along those lines. We're not 100% sure.
You know what? It obviously works for them, so...
Hey, I like soup at any time of the year,
yeah,
so...
and soup is always good. So, today we are making what is called kalguksu, kal being knife, guksu meaning noodle soup. So, this is technically knife-cut noodle soup. So, we're cutting the noodles with knives, so we'll make homemade noodles, and then we'll cut them with the knife, obviously. And before we get to that, though, we're going to make the broth. We're doing this in 2 stages because we have a little pup who is feeling kind of rough today and needs a little bit of loving. So we're going to make the broth today and get the chicken together. And that way she can have some cuddle time and we have some downtime, and we'll make the noodles tomorrow, and this will be our lunch for tomorrow. Also gives our broth a little time to add a little more flavor to it.
It also works better for us because if we eat it in the middle of the day and we just sweat like a racehorse, then we have time to take a shower and whatnot before we go to bed. If you eat it late at night and it's hot and you get all sweaty,
we'll still have time for a shower, but you're still hot all night probably.
You just be hot all night.
Yeah.
No. It's better at lunch.
So
it works for me.
The version that we're making of kalguksu is Dak Kalguksu, dak being chicken. So we have chicken. Now you can buy a whole chicken and put a whole chicken in there. I'm using a recipe from Mangchi, my friend Mangchi. Yeah, I call her my friend. She doesn't know me.
Everybody loves Mangchi.
Yeah. She used chicken breast, so that is what we're using, is a pound of chicken breast. We're going to have 16 cloves of garlic.
Yes, that's 16.
A medium onion, but this is the onion I have, so that's what we're going with.
I've seen bigger, so I'm going to call that medium.
And our green onions didn't look so good, so I'm going with our freeze-dried green onions for the broth. So the plan now is
also because we've never tried those before.
Yeah, we've never used those before, but they're freeze-dried green onions, so in a broth, they should be amazing. That's my thought process. So our first, and 16 cups of water. Obviously, this is not 16 cups of water, but you see the big red pot back over there? That has 16 cups of water already in it. So the plan is to get our 16 cloves of garlic and chop off the little ends of them, because we will be actually pulling these out of the water. Who is straining them out of our broth to mush together to go with our chicken, because that's what you do with that. And then the onion will be cut into quarters. So Chuck is going to get on that.
Yay.
Yay. Look, I can be useful. I will count out 16 garlic for you.
Can you count to 16?
2, second 2, third 2. Oh, some strong garlic in here too.
Those onions kind of pungent too.
Here's the 5th 2. You might actually have been right. You said there was about 30 in here, and that was
a
rough guess. So
that was a wag, and it
you might actually be right.
Might be close.
Right. I don't know. Count. Did I get all my 2s right?
A couple, some few. A couple, some few. A couple, some few. A couple, some few. A few fews.
I'm good?
Yep.
All right. I can few.
If anybody's wondering, redneck math. A couple, some few, many. So quarters.
Quarters.
Wow.
Quarters.
That was riveting.
So difficult.
What am I doing with this?
We're going to go put this in here to
Have
boil.
an onion.
I'm just dropping the stuff in the water in case anybody's wondering.
And we can fast forward through this bit, because this is boring, boring shit. I'm cutting the head off garlic, and I don't know the word. Garlic. All right, we've got the ends cut off of a bunch of cloves of garlic. Just throw them in the water.
Yep. And then because we are actually using...
Fly, my minions!
Because we're actually using chicken breast, I'm actually going to add a scoop of our chicken base, which will give it some flavor.
It doesn't have as rich of a taste as the thighs.
And I'm really hoping all these little green onions here. I didn't count that because, you know, usually you just do the...
Just use a bag.
Well, no, yeah, I did. But normally when you put the green onions in, you're using like the length of them.
Oh, yeah. This is like super chopped, so our measurement is a bag.
There was no other way around that one. It'll be fine. So now we are going to get that on high heat. Once it gets to a boil, it is going to boil for an hour. That is the plan.
In case anybody was wondering, I can make the flame bigger, but if the flame is so big that it just goes around the side of the pot, you're not making the pot any hotter.
You're not. Okay.
No, then you're just wasting heat out into the air. So that's about as big a flame as going to fit under that. We will let that come to a burble.
We'll put a lid on it and let it boil.
That makes it come to a burble faster.
It's been an hour. We're going to go ahead and just pour everything. We're going to strain it through because we know we need to remove the chicken and the garlic. So we'll go ahead and do that.
In case anybody wanted a quick look.
And remember, we did add a little bit of bouillon to add the chicken flavor.
Yes, our onion flavor wound up being a bit strong.
So we did actually add a little bit more bouillon just to cover that. That was my fault for adding too much green onion probably. All right, you ready? So now we need to pull out the chicken and let that cool. All right, so chicken, and that's just kind of falling apart as I pick it up.
Well, it's only been boiling for like an hour or so.
And we'll shred the chicken, so. And the garlic is a little bit of mush. The garlic. Ours is going to end up having a little green onion in that.
Well, that's because our freeze-dried, super thinly sliced green onion kind of disintegrated.
Yeah.
It's a good flavor. I mean, it tastes good, but there's nothing left of it to pick out.
Well, to be fair, it's not the worst thing ever to have it go ahead and flavor with the chicken.
True.
Which is what it's going to end up doing. This is our garlic we're supposed to mash, but I don't think it's going to take me all that long to mash it.
It's pretty much, it's mushed in.
So the garlic is supposed to basically be mashed, and when you mash it, you're basically getting it down, and then we're going to add a little bit of flavor to it, but then we'll shred the chicken and add the chicken in with it. I'm leaving some of that green onion in there just because it's there, and it'd be too difficult to get out, but that's, I mean, I don't think I can mash that much more than that. So let's see.
Yeah, looks like it's ready for whatever seasoning we're supposed to add to it.
So we've put our broth back in. Now remember, our broth is a little bit yellow, but it's also milky. The milky is good. The yellow is because of our bouillon that we put in to add to the chicken flavor. So to that, we are going to add 1 tablespoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of soup soy sauce. This is a soup soy sauce. So I'm going to give that a stir. It doesn't really change the color much. So that's going to be our soup stock. All right, so we are going to add to our little garlic mash 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of toasted sesame oil. I'm going to mix that up while Chuck gets our chicken started to shred. So the chicken will actually go in this mix because the chicken for this is actually a topper to the noodle soup. Correct.
Yes, so technically you're not eating chicken noodle soup, you're eating noodle soup with chicken.
And I hit that a little hard there. Chuck is now a little sloppy with that.
A little vicious there with it, ain't you?
Sorry, I was just beating that hard. So for us, this will actually go in the fridge overnight. So we'll take it out and get it back to room temperature tomorrow when we start our noodle process, because we'll also have to reheat our broth as well.
Time to sit and settle and
add flavors.
And merge together and make more gooder flavors.
That's right. The more gooder the flavor, the better. All right, so now I'm just going to dump our garlic.
Goop.
Mush.
Moosh.
Garlic. Our mashed garlic. Whatever you want to call that.
Mashed garlic sauce.
And then we're basically just going to get that chicken and move it around in there basically to get every bit of that. Actually, I'm going to use my hands because it's probably going to be easier.
Make sure it's incorporated. Big words.
The good thing about doing this in 2 steps for us at this point is going to be this chicken is going to have a little bit more flavor than what it would probably have if we were just going to let it sit for a little while we got the rest of everything done. All right, so we're in.
We've got our
broth.
Broth, yes. We've got our broth in a bowl over here with a lid on it, so it's going to sit. You can either choose to put it in the fridge and cool it down, or you can honestly let it sit at room temperature. All right,
This will go in the fridge.
Chicken's good? Yes, chicken goes in the fridge.
Yes.
Broth is good. Broth
We'll
is
make
waiting.
noodles tomorrow.
Tomorrow we'll get up. We'll get together. Get our shit together. Make the noodles.
Damn, Chuck. We will have our shit together tomorrow, and we will make noodles.
Right.
Right, because we have to.
Welcome back to day 2. Although this recipe doesn't really take 2 days.
We had to take care of May May yesterday. She was hurting.
We had May issues.
May needed us, and since she is our #1 audience member, she is always there for every video we do, and she watches us intently and listens to everything we say. I figured that was an important thing for us to do. So, we're back. We're going to go ahead and start making our noodles. Got our broth heating back up. So right here we decided to half the noodle recipe because we don't need to be eating all those noodles right now.
It was a lot of noodles.
It's a lot of noodles. So we halved her noodle recipe. So this is 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Plus we'll have extra for dusting. Then we've got a 1/4 cup of potato starch. The potato starch helps to keep the noodles from getting soggy. And then we have, this is 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt.
I personally like to use coarse salt when I'm cooking. I only use the fine salt for finishing.
And we've got about 2/3 cup of water.
Am I pouring that in?
Yeah, pour that in, babe.
Okay.
You go right ahead.
I thought I was just Vanna Whiting things here.
You are Vanna Whiting everything, but we'll take it. And then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of what we have here is just an all-purpose cooking oil. Okay. And now, sir, did you just want to put that away?
I'll just set it back here out the way.
We're going to basically mix it and form it into a lump. So mix it with a spoon until you can get it to a point where you can get your hands in there. All right, Chuck, you want to form us some dough? Do you want the bigger? Probably the bigger.
Let's do the big one.
That one's going to be the one we use for chopping. Well, you actually need to form it into a ball first.
Yeah, same.
In the bowl. So Chuck is doing our noodles because Chuck doesn't trust me with the knife. Thanks, babe.
Well,
if they'd seen how many times I've cut myself, right?
I say statistically, of the 2 of us,
well,
I'm less likely to injure myself.
To be fair, we should be fair. I may have cut myself, but I have never, we can say this, I have never actually bled on our food. So at least give me credit for that. I may be terrible, I may cut myself, but I don't bleed on our food. He's just going to massage that dough now.
Right now I'm trying to get it to a ball where it doesn't just completely fall apart when I pick it up.
And then once you get it into that ball, we're going to put it in a plastic bag and sit it on the counter for 10 minutes or in the fridge for 10 minutes. Did we decide if we were doing fridge or counter?
Counter.
Counter for 10 minutes.
So the recipes we saw for this, mainly Mang cheese, basically said to do it in stages. Knead it for a minute or 2, put it in a bag, do something else, come back in 10 minutes.
I like the way that she did that because as she does the kind of things like I do. As in the middle of doing stuff, we're actually doing other stuff. So we got their dough, we're going to make it into a ball, then we're going to put it in a bag, and we're going to sit it down while we chop up zucchini.
All right, I think we're not losing superfluous.
All right. Well, dump it in the bag.
All right, so I have found my friend, Stabby McChopface, and a zucchini.
And now we're going to make that zucchini into matchsticks.
Yes. All right, so as opposed to my normal rounds that I cut stuff in when I'm making stew and whatnot, it said to slice it.
Well, that way I think is what you're saying.
This way is easier to make matchsticks, apparently.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some of these aren't matchsticks so much as fire lighters.
As long as they're not logs. Okay, now we are going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in there and mix it. So basically what the salt is here to do is the salt is going to help pull the moisture. All right, so we are setting this aside for 5 to 10 minutes. So
right. Always remember to wash your veggies. And I'm not sure if it's more or less important here in Korea. The veggies tend to be fresher, but that might mean you want to wash them more because who knows what they fertilize that field with.
just always wash your veggies. It's a good rule of thumb. So yesterday, after we made the stock, we went ahead and added to our stock a tablespoon of kosher salt and 2 teaspoons of soup soy sauce. So that is reheating back up. We're going to get it to a boil before we put noodles in, obviously. We ended up, I think, with about 13 cups after we boiled. So 13 cups left of the stock out of the 16.
This is a whole lot easier to cut.
If we were going with the way Mangchi does hers, we would, at this point, after we chop the green onions, we would be making our garlic paste and putting our chicken in that, basically.
Which we've already done.
Which we did yesterday. So we're a little bit ahead of the game, but we're still going to give our dough enough time to rest before we start kneading it again, because it needs lots of love. Needs lots of kneading.
Knife tip: if you've got good knives, not like Walmart knives, but like good knives, always clean them and dry them off when you're done using them. Don't let them sit around and get rust spots.
You don't let them sit there and dry overnight by themselves either. You just dry them yourself. These are good knives. We love these knives. Dry your knife, right, May May? May says dry your knife.
Need more dough.
All right, sir, would you like a little bit more flour for your hands?
Actually, not at
Maybe
the
a
moment.
little. You sure?
Not at the moment. I think I'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, hold on to that. You made a mess of my flour pile.
In fact, I was literally trying not to do that.
Good thing I love this man. And didn't Mangshi say you want to do it, push in with the...
You want to use the heel of your hand to push through it.
For your power.
Mix it together.
For the power.
Get that power mixer. Of course, Mangchi's like a little Korean lady. I'm a big fat guy. I can just lean on it.
So basically, we're kneading this for 2 to 5 minutes. And then we're putting it back in the bag.
A minute or two of rolling that around and mashing the schnot out of it. We're starting to get slightly smooth, so we're going to put it back in and let it rest.
And while we do that, we're going to go over to the stove and do our zucchini.
Clean my mess up.
So, I am laying this all out because this is how I squeeze my water out. Is I just basically put it in a towel and then hand squeeze.
So just to publicly acknowledge, Melissa was probably right. We should have used the fine salt on that one because we'd get more coverage and pull more liquid out.
It's okay because we're getting a lot of liquid out.
I usually use the coarse salt when I'm actually cooking, not preserving something.
All right, so now we're going to come over here. Now I'm going to give it a second because this is a really thick bottom.
Yeah, this is a heavy bottom steel pan we got.
So I'm just kind of waiting to see if I can feel some heat. Basically, we're only sauteing this for about a minute.
So you want the pan hot.
So I'm going to just put just a little bit of this all-purpose cooking oil in. And then I'm just going to dump out my zucchini out of my paper towel here.
So we saute this for a minute and a half or so. And then we're going to pull it out.
Right, and then just for your knowledge, since we put our chicken in the fridge last night, our chicken is a little bit colder. Since the pan's going to be hot, I'm just going to throw it in the pan for a couple minutes just to warm it up. That's the only thing I'm doing with it, is just throwing it in there just to get a little warmth to it.
Yeah, we're not trying to sear it or stir fry it. We're just going to warm it through.
May, what do you think about that? There's zucchini in a frying pan. Is there? Is there, Mama?
There is.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I'm so impressed. Cookie dog, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm impressed with nothing. I wanted you to be making dinner for me.
It was my dinner.
All right, so we got a minute and a half in there. You're not stir frying this. You're just basically cooking it till it starts to wilt and take it off to heat.
A bowl of zucchini and a bowl of the chicken.
And the hungry duggies sitting around like we're making this for them. But
I'm making spicy pepper
we're making spicy pepper flakes.
Paste. So 1 tablespoon, because I'm halving this, I don't think we're going to need quite as much. So 1 tablespoon of gochugaru, and then 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. So this will be the spicy paste that you can put in if you want a little extra flavor to your Dak Kalguksu. You can make it a little more spicy.
It's literally just gochugaru and
Sesame oil.
sesame oil.
So the goal now is to knead this until it is smooth. And once it's smooth, since we have half of that, we don't have to divide ours. But if you had the full recipe, you would divide it. Once it's smooth, you're going to dust your cutting board and put the dough on it and roll it out.
All right, so a couple minutes. This is a relatively smooth looking dough.
All right, so I'm going to put a little flour here for you. That's probably more than enough.
If anybody's wondering, this is just the largest plastic cutting board we could source locally.
Yeah. I really need to find him a bigger one, but he didn't really want a bamboo or a wood one, which doesn't help me any.
All right, so we're gonna, I'm gonna start with mashing this out a little.
So you're gonna roll it out. You want to roll it out to an 18-inch wide, which I don't think you're getting 18 inches.
I don't think we're
on
getting
that.
18 inches on this.
But as flat as you can roll that. And about 1/16 inch or 1 or 2 millimeters thick. And yes, that is a pastry roller.
It's what I got.
I never use a big rolling pin. I always use the pastry rolling pin. I like the fact that I have a little bit more control over it.
I think we're still gonna have to cut this in half just because of the size of our cutting board.
Yes. So the goal that Mangchi said was you're basically wanting to make long noodles because the long noodles symbolize the longevity of life. So ours might be a little bit shorter, but we're old.
We ain't got that much longer.
And it's for us. Seriously though, ours might be a little bit shorter, but it's because our cutting board is unfortunately unable to meet the lengths that we needed.
All right, well, there still might be some slightly thick noodles, but...
All right, so remember she puts a pinch of as you fold.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now you're going to actually fold this in. So small fold, and you'll put a little bit of flour there. Then we'll do another fold. A little more flour.
Not a whole lot, just enough to keep it from sticking.
And then one more fold. And now he's going to cut noodles.
Which is literally just what it sounds like.
So the goal is to try and cut them as close as possible to the same size.
Now I'm going for slightly more fettuccine sized noodles. Mainly so I don't cut them too thin and they fall apart. Alright, so here's a slightly more close-up look on our noodles here.
All right, and so then what she did was just pull them. So basically, ours are pretty long.
So not terrible. Not terribly long.
They're not.
But not terribly short either. So.
They're not as long as maybe hers were, but they're also not short, so. This end being a little bit shorter since it was on the end.
Yeah.
But I think you did a good job.
Those will swell a little in the water, so we'll see how they come out. They're going to be likely some soba size when they come out.
The goal for them is to actually swell in the water. When they float, that's when they're done, because they only cook for about 2 to 3 minutes or so.
Right. So we got to do another thing of dough there to cut some more noodles, and we'll be back. We are mobile in the kitchen.
And here we go. I'm probably doing this slower than she would do, but mostly because I want to make sure my noodles don't actually stick completely together. Because the humidity in our kitchen, everything's sticking together.
The local weather where you're at affects your cooking. If you're somewhere with high humidity, anything that's made of dough is going to be sticky.
So basically I'm getting all of these in here. Once I get these in here, I will then put the lid back on and let it boil for 2 to 3 minutes. So the part I like about this is we literally went all in on this. Like, these are knife cut noodles, we knife cut noodles. Like, we didn't just...
We could have cheaped out and went to the store and they have these noodles pre-made, pre-cut. All you got to do is open the bag and fluff them out and throw them in the water.
All right, so if you want to get a quick look before I put the lid on.
They turn the heat up on it and make it boil.
See, there you go. There's our noodles in there. And now, we're going to turn the heat up and let it boil. Here we go. I've never made my own pasta before, so.
Me either. This is our first noodle experience. We've never made our own noodles before. So we gave them another 30 seconds or so in the water. We tasted them. Tastes good to me. So we're gonna scoop the noodles up, and we're gonna put some broth in there, and then we're gonna go to the table to finish it off.
Now we're going to add to the top of our noodles.
Let me get in here and get a better shot of that.
My bowl is a little bit smaller than Chuck's today. I'm not quite starving.
So don't skimp on the zucchini. Just pile it on there.
So here's our chicken. Do you just want it piled up on top?
Yeah, that's good.
You can add more chicken as needed. Okay.
And a little green onion to garnish.
Are we starting with pepper? I think we need to taste it first.
Let's taste it first, and then we'll add spicy to one of them.
Okay.
So.
I'm going to mix everything in really good.
That's one thing about a lot of Korean dishes, is they're served really pretty, and then you have to mix everything up.
All right, so I want to get a little bit of everything in one bite.
Okay, so I overcut the size on the noodles. You do not want to be fettuccine wide. That makes a very thick noodle.
It makes a very thick noodle, but it's not a bad noodle. It's just thick.
They do have a good taste to them.
It's a very good taste.
I mean, generally when you talk about a noodle, you don't really, the noodle's more of a filler than the point of the dish. These noodles actually have a good taste to them. And of course you got your, your garlic chicken and your stir-fried zucchini here.
Which you were a little concerned about the garlic chicken being a little too garlic, but actually I thought it turned out pretty good. I added a little pepper paste to mine. I actually like it both ways.
That's good either way. Now, while a lot of people call this Korean chicken noodle soup, this is not chicken noodle soup. Well, it's a noodle soup with chicken. There's a definite emphasis on the broth and the noodles
Well,
than the chicken.
Kalguksu can be made with seafood. It can be made with other options. So this version that we made is a chicken noodle soup. But it is a noodle soup with chicken. He's right about that.
I'm trying to decide whether I like it better without the spicy or with.
I'll share.
I think I like it slightly better without.
Ooh.
Although it's good either way.
Oh. So, if you were making this at home, tips that we will note, since this is our first time making this, and we've actually never had this in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are not a home pasta maker enthusiast, the noodles are going to take some doing to get right.
And you should definitely not make fettuccine size. Do them smaller.
Yeah. They're
not bad. They're just...
I'm thinking my dough may have still been a little too thick. You need to get like less than a half-inch thick.
Well,
so I was trying not to go too thin because I'm used to us making pizza dough, and if you go too thin, you tear through it. But this is going to plump up as soon as it hits water, so you need thin.
But for a first attempt...
But the flavor's good. The consistency's pretty good.
The flavor's good. The noodles are good.
I'll give it 2 thumbs up. I like this. Although, I think if we were going to make it next time, I'd just lazy out and go get the pre-made noodles. This is a lot of work and a lot of mess.
Unless I have like a
It's not specifically hard. It's just messy.
I don't know. I think I'd try it one more time. I think I'd try making the noodles one more time.
Just to see if we can get them more right.
Yeah. And then maybe trying it with the whole chicken instead of the chicken breast.
True.
And then obviously not putting the freeze-dried green onions in that. Which, by the way, in case you're looking at Mongchi's recipe, no, that did not come from Mongchi's recipe. That came from another recipe that I was also referencing.
And neither one of them use freeze-dried green onions. That was us not wanting to run to the store.
And literally, we should have ran to the store because it's right down there.
It's literally 3 blocks down the street. We probably could have gone to the CU on the corner.
So we screwed up.
But it wasn't catastrophic. It's still a good soup.
No, it wasn't catastrophic regardless.
I actually really like this.
So you really do want me to make it again?
That little bit of MSG we put in, a little king of flavor. Yeah, I definitely would not be angry at eating this. Try it with the spicy again.
I like the spicy. Which is good since I put spicy in mine.
It's literally good both ways.
It is. So, whether you want it...
A little creamier or a little spicier.
You got options.
So, Kalguksu, specifically Dak Kalguksu.
Dak Kalguksu.
Kimchi Rednecks approved. 2 thumbs up.
4 thumbs up. I'll give it 2 as well.
Yay.
All right, guys, we're going to finish eating our dinner so that we can feed whiny dogs. Imagine that. So, y'all, like, subscribe,
Do the internet things.
and we'll see y'all around.